MarTech stack to optimize customer journeys, implement effective cross-channel experiences, and cultivate meaningful customer experiences. With that, let's welcome Corinne.
Hi. Beyonce, right? First to start, who's first time here at Summit? Me too. My boss last year said, I would love to see someone at Summit from Lenovo. We made it happen. Today I'm going to be talking about customer-centric strategies balancing people, process, and technology. A nice long title. First, to introduce myself. My name is Corinne Hendrickson. As mentioned, I'm the global strategy lead at Lenovo. You might be familiar with Lenovo. We sell PCs. We sell a lot more than PCs, smarter technology for all. But today we're going to go through a few things. So one, what is customer centricity? I'm sure everyone has heard this term. It is a buzzword. It's overused, candidly. But we'll talk a little bit about it. Then we'll talk about where Lenovo started, right? So where did we start? And then what changed, right? People, our process, and our technology. We like to think of things in three pillars. I think it's easier for the human mind to understand that way. And so we'll go into some more, I want to say tactical, but more high-level understandings around change management, right? So that's what we're going to focus on today. And then we'll end with where we are today, and then some key learnings. So what is customer centricity? It's basic, right? The customer is the center of everything you do. When you're putting together products, services, the thought process is then, what is the customer actually interested in? It sounds intuitive, but when you think about a lot of companies, right, we're thinking about what do we need to sell, what's today's sale, et cetera. We're not really thinking about what does the customer actually want, right? And so it is understanding your tech stack, which we'll talk about and how Movable Link supports us, but also what is the organizational structure that supports the tech stack, right? So you can have the big idea, but if you don't have the organizational structure, you don't have the right processes, that really doesn't take off, right? And so it's really changing, and I like this quote here, really changing the well-known organizational structure and thinking about how do we combine execution with our technology to then drive whatever your business goal is. So for Lenovo, it's personalization and automation at scale. We're thinking about that throughout our journey. So where we started, I'd like to say, and I want to be careful because my CMO is in the audience, we were maybe 10 years old in regards to, our strategy felt at least 10 years old, right, a few years back. The batch and blast approach, right, everyone's familiar with this approach, is just kind of the spray and pray. Sending the same email to everyone. This feels very old school, but honestly, this was something Lenovo was doing probably 2-3 years back, right? Manually intensive email process, very manually intensive. Building one campaign for every, or building one thing for every send. So again, not an evergreen campaign, but instead doing kind of a one-time send. 80% of our bandwidth focused on one-time emails. At this point in our kind of program, we really had no automations. We had the very typical abandoned cart, welcome, et cetera. But no automations, no triggers really scaled. We were not using AI or machine learning at all. I will say I'm happy I'm not hearing AI overused in this conference. I feel like that was the buzzword last time. But really from 22 to 23, we saw a decline in the market as a whole in the tech space, but also for Lenovo, specifically in email. And our database growth remained relatively flat. So not the best place to start, right? We started to think about, okay, what needs to change? Something needs to change. We're kind of hitting this point where we're stagnant in our strategy and in our performance. And really, again, we started thinking about, okay, what are the 3 areas we want to focus on? People, process, and technology. So we'll go through each of these, and again, how do we drive that customer centricity through each of these things with the goal of personalization and automation at scale, as I said, right? So people, understanding your org structure, right? So for Lenovo, we have a center of excellence. I'm on the center of excellence. Understanding where execution lives, who is really driving not only the strategy, but the actual day-to-day execution. 2, change management, right? We're talking about change management as a whole, but really change management in regards to our process, right? How are we thinking about how we build our emails? Is it really supporting that goal of customer centricity? And then 3, the right MarTech stack. I think this is the most important. We'll talk about it. But understanding your strategy and your goals is obviously important, but you need to ensure you have the right technology to scale those goals. So starting with the COE model and kind of our people, right? So this is our previous model, and again, this will really depend on your business and what works for you. But for us, we basically had a decentralized COE model. So my team would work on strategy, we would push strategy out to stakeholders, and we'd say, hey, this is best in class. You really should be doing this. The issue is that we had no control over execution, right? So we would say, hey, you really should be driving more automations. Instead of focusing on your batch emails, let's think about scaling some triggers, driving dynamic content, dynamic product blocks. The issue there, again, is that the execution is decentralized. And so, yes, it all sounds good, but the stakeholders, the geos, they have to focus on the sale that's next week, right? So how do we adjust this to make this work for a more customer-centric organization? Realistically, we adjusted this to a more centralized hybrid approach. Again, this will all depend on your model and what works for you, but for Lenovo, again, with a COE model, we did adjust it so that email production team was then centralized, right? So we were then sharing a resource with our stakeholders, which is always fun, but at least we had that in to actually get something executed. And you'll see some of the results, because it was a huge change for us. We were actually able to prioritize things that work and deprioritize things that don't work, like batch emails. Secondly, change management. Understanding your existing email process, it feels very tactical, but it's something that you really should be diving into. Before I dive into this, I will say when we talk about change management, we found at Lenovo the most successful way to actually make changes is not only top-down, but bottom-up, right? Understanding the motivations of each of the teams and understanding, okay, we want to make your life easier for the people who are working at the emails. And then from the top-down, we want to drive more revenue, right? That's what they care about. So understanding the existing process and what needs to change. So going from a stakeholder-led production model to a centralized global model. Going from merchandiser decisioning, this is a huge one, to really trusting AI and machine learning. I will say this is not complete at Lenovo, right? Our sales team and our merchandising team, they still are very into giving us products to really sell and promote, and that's kind of their bread and butter. But we're starting to move towards, let's trust the AI, let's trust machine learning and these algorithms that understand these one-to-one product recommendations, personalization at scale. Bandwidth was focused on labor-intensive batch emails. Then bandwidth focused on evergreen trigger-based emails. Campaign speed to market for triggers for us, and again, this is 30-plus countries that we're scaling, was around 3 to 4 months, so a full quarter. Now we're at 2 to 3 weeks is a little fast. I'd say 3 to 4 weeks now. And again, we really didn't have any, because of the way that our process was built, the teams didn't have any bandwidth for optimizations, test and learn, driving better batch campaigns, right? We're not saying get rid of your batch campaigns, but really understanding where can we drive efficiencies within the process so you all have more time to drive test and learn, to dive into Movable Ink a little bit more, right? The last, and I think the most important piece in regards to this kind of overall change management to drive customer centricity is driving personalization at scale through your tech stack, right? So again, this is very dependent on your goals as a business. We really wanted to focus on driving automation at scale, so it did take kind of a full reworking. We moved to a new ESP, for example, more retail-based. We were focused primarily previously on something that was a little bit more B2B, didn't really focus on our retail. And so with kind of our integrations, plus our other pieces of the tech stack, including Movable Ink, we're able to drive that personalization at scale. I know everyone's familiar with Movable Ink, We have quite a few API integrations, quite a few apps that are running today. We'll go over a bit of that. But really, tools like Movable Link allow us to actually drive that personalization at scale. So understanding your existing tech stack, if it supports your goals, then you're along for the right ride. Active MarTech integrations. So these are some things that we have in market today. We're really proud of a lot of these integrations. And again, this is just a small subset of some of the things we have in market when we talk about relying on dynamic content, relying on personalized content versus this kind of one-to-many approach, one-to-one approach. Could be anything from a status bar, right, to product pricing, or for us, what we use Movable Link quite a bit is our CrowdTwist integration for loyalty. I think we've heard about loyalty quite a bit, but something like Movable Link, a tool and a platform like Movable Link really supports our goals, especially when it comes to loyalty. One of our other key focus areas is driving retention. We found that our existing customers are 9 times more valuable than net new customers. Everyone knows net new customers are more expensive. So for something like loyalty, which again, we use Movable Link, is really integral to our process. It is very important that we're able to show these kind of one-to-one messaging where they are in the customer journey. We also have an integration with our community platforms, able to power kind of a one-to-one newsletter, which we're very excited about. Our most successful campaign to date through Movable Link is our Doorbuster app that supports product recommendations and product pricing. So this is something that we ran for several years, but we've actually got the API integration more sophisticated. And at this point, we really are to the point where it drives this kind of really, really strong personalization within our emails. We did see a 5% increase in revenue, but realistically, what we really want to focus on is not only revenue per email, but what is those kind of efficiencies gained, right? 200 plus production hours saved year over year. And that's specific to Cyber 5, so only for 5 days, 200 plus production hours. Those are the types of things when we talk about automation, personalization at scale, we don't talk about efficiency gains. This is a huge efficiency gain for our production team. They were able to work on multiple more campaigns, not even included in some of this revenue. They were able to drive additional revenue, et cetera. And so it is one of those things where, yes, of course, we want to see that bottom line revenue, but we also want to see that efficiency gain. We want to be productive with our emails. So where are we now? I've gone through the 3 columns of where we went and kind of the struggles we've been through. And again, I'll be candid, it's not done yet. But now we have 20 plus automations live. Our bandwidth has now been shifted really from programs that drove inefficient revenue to efficient revenue. Our production process is centralized. We've increased our usage of machine and AI capabilities. We're now using dynamic product blocks. We're now using machine learning, propensity models, et cetera. We're excited about that. And the results really speak for themselves, right? So this past year, we saw a 22% increase in email revenue, an increase in site visits, orders, and an increase in database size. So again, positive results across the board. So I am definitely faster than I timed myself, and I had literally 1 minute. So I'm faster than I thought, but we'll hit on our key takeaways now. So again, I hit on 3 columns, right? Three core areas to focus on, and this is really, again, where you need to take it back and understand what works for your company specifically. But reviewing your team structure, right? Does your team structure and the roles and responsibilities currently outlined within your org chart, does it make sense and does it support your current goal, right? Again, our goal was personalization at scale. Our current team structure did not support that, so we had to make a change. Determine if existing processes support your goal, right? Again, personalization at scale. Our existing processes were not supporting that, primarily supporting kind of these one-time sends, manually heavy email sends, and really not thinking about the marketer even, right? I think one of the things I heard from the team is, you made my life easier. That's great for me to hear. It's not a KPI we track, but it's something we want to push, right? And then finally, and again, most importantly, aligning your MarTech stack with your long-term goals, right? I think someone spoke to it earlier, is thinking about your MarTech your MarTech stack as trendy is not the way to think of it, right? It's meant to be something that lives on and on. You should think about it 5, 10 plus years. Does it still support your strategy, right? We're really thinking about AI now, but even further, we want that one-to-one relevancy for every person. And so does it really support your goals? I think with Movable Ink, of course, it does for us. But I think someone said earlier, really challenging your vendors and pushing your stack to where you want it to be, that 100% functionality is the goal. Lastly, when you think about customer centricity, again, think about it as part of your culture, right? It should be driving every thought that you're doing as a business. It should be driving the thoughts you do around your services, your solutions. What does the customer actually want? It's sometimes a hard conversation, but it's definitely the right conversation to have if you want to have that personalization and automation at scale. And that's it. I appreciate it. I know I'm early. Thank you.